extensive summary of Applying the Kingdom by Myles Munroe. Applying the Kingdom. Introduction. Understanding the Kingdom of God. Myles Munroe begins applying the kingdom by explaining that the greatest pursuit of humanity is the search for meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Throughout history, humans have sought significance through wealth, power, fame, and material possessions, yet none of these truly satisfy. He asserts that the answer to this deep longing lies in understanding and applying the principles of God's kingdom. Dr. Munroe introduces the central theme of the book, that God's kingdom is the original government meant to rule the earth, and Jesus Christ came to restore it. He challenges traditional religious perspectives that limit Christianity to a set of beliefs or rituals, and emphasizes that it is actually a kingdom with laws, culture, rights, and responsibilities. Key takeaways. God's original plan was for humanity to rule the earth as his representatives. Jesus' primary message was the restoration of God's kingdom, not religion. True fulfillment comes from living under kingdom principles, not worldly success. Chapter 1. First things first, understanding priorities. Myles Munroe explains that misplaced priorities lead to frustration, stress, and failure. He critiques how society prioritizes material success, power, and social status, leading to an endless cycle of worry and dissatisfaction. He argues that God has already established the correct priority for humanity, seeking his kingdom first. Matthew 6:33. Why priorities matter. Your priorities determine your decisions, and your decisions shape your destiny. If your priorities are misaligned, your life will be chaotic and unfulfilling. God's kingdom must be the first priority, as it aligns everything else in life. Munroe explains that most people chase money, security, and comfort rather than seeking the kingdom, which provides these things naturally. Key takeaways. Seeking God's kingdom. First, brings peace and success effortlessly. Misplaced priorities lead to stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. The pursuit of materialism is a distraction from true purpose. Chapter 2. The danger of misplaced priorities. This chapter explores how humanity's fall from grace-distorted priorities. Before sin, Adam and Eve lived in harmony with God's kingdom, but after their disobedience, they became focused on survival, material needs, and self-preservation. Consequences of misplaced priorities. People chase wealth instead of purpose. Fear and worry dominate life. Society values temporary success over eternal significance. Munroe emphasizes that God never intended for us to struggle for survival. Instead, he designed a system where everything we need flows from living under kingdom authority. Key takeaways. Disobedience led to humanity's focus on self-preservation. The world system is built on fear, greed, and materialism. Kingdom priorities restore peace, security, and divine provision. Chapter 3. The exclusiveness of the divine priority. Munroe explains that God does not accept divided loyalty. We cannot serve both God and money. Matthew 6:24. He warns that many believers struggle with divided priorities, which leads to spiritual stagnation. The cost of divided priorities. Lack of direction and clarity in life. Spiritual frustration and unanswered prayers. Inability to experience true kingdom blessings. Munroe uses biblical examples of people who had to choose between God's will and personal ambition, such as the rich young ruler, Mark 10:17-27, who walked away from Jesus because he valued wealth over the kingdom. Key takeaways. God demands full allegiance to his kingdom. Worldly distractions prevent spiritual progress. True success is found in pursuing God's will wholeheartedly. Chapter 4. The Divine Priority Mandate. This chapter highlights Jesus' primary message, the Kingdom of God. Munroe emphasizes that Jesus did not preach religion, but a kingdom. Kingdom versus religion. Religion focuses on rituals, but the kingdom focuses on governance and authority. Religion teaches escape, heaven, but the kingdom teaches dominion on earth. Religion promotes tradition, but the kingdom promotes transformation. Munroe explains that many Christians focus on escaping to heaven instead of establishing God's rule on earth. He argues that Jesus' mission was to restore God's rulership in our daily lives. Key takeaways. Jesus' message was about the kingdom, not religion. Believers are called to establish God's rule on earth, not just wait for heaven. Kingdom living brings power, authority, and impact in daily life. Chapter 5. The Power of Righteousness. Munroe explains that righteousness is not about religious behavior, but about right standing in the kingdom. He emphasizes that righteousness gives believers legal access to kingdom blessings. What righteousness does aligns us with kingdom laws and principles, opens the door to divine favor and provision, grants authority to manifest God's will on earth. Munroe warns that many believers struggle with guilt and condemnation, which hinders them from operating in kingdom power. Key takeaways. Righteousness grants legal access to kingdom blessings. Many Christians live in defeat because they misunderstand righteousness. Kingdom citizens must walk in righteousness to experience full benefits. Chapter 6. The Benefits of Righteousness. This chapter highlights the tangible benefits of living a righteous life under kingdom authority. Benefits of righteousness. Divine provision. God supplies all needs effortlessly. Peace and security. Anxiety disappears when kingdom priorities are in place. Authority and power. Righteous believers can speak and decree things into existence. Supernatural favor. Opportunities and success come naturally. Munroe explains that righteousness aligns believers with God's government, making them unstoppable. Key takeaways. Righteousness opens doors to supernatural blessings. Kingdom citizens have authority to change circumstances. A righteous life leads to effortless success and peace. Chapter 7. Accessing Kingdom Resources. Munroe explains that kingdom citizens do not live by the world's economy, but by kingdom resources. How to access kingdom resources. Faith in God's provision. Obedience to kingdom principles. Aligning with divine priorities. He warns against trusting in material wealth, which is unstable, and encourages believers to depend on God's system, which never fails. Key takeaways. Kingdom resources are unlimited and available to believers. Trusting in God's system brings supernatural provision. Faith and obedience unlock kingdom wealth. Final thoughts. Living a kingdom life. Munroe concludes by calling believers to action. He urges them to shift their focus from religion to kingdom principles and apply these teachings daily. Summary of key lessons from the book. God's original plan was for humanity to rule through kingdom authority. Misplaced priorities lead to stress and unfulfilled lives. Kingdom living is about dominion, not just waiting for heaven. Righteousness gives believers access to divine resources. Applying kingdom principles leads to peace, success, and fulfillment. Subscribe to the Christian Library for more faith-filled audiobooks.